And that actually is the perfect segue to get into our college football week 4 recap, our college football team of the week. And mine is the Oregon Ducks, who just had to deal with the disrespect that Colorado shows up. They're stomping on the O. They're talking all this smack about how they're going to dominate. They look small. They're going to run through them. And in reality, they showed that there's some substance in the Oregon team where there isn't. This Colorado team's fighting for clicks. Oregon went out and fought for wins. That game was over from the first play of the game and brings back down to life the Deion Sanders experiment at Colorado. Everything that we have said on this podcast about Colorado. They've got some nice skill guys. They have nobody who can protect them. I went to a coaching clinic down in Denver where they had the Colorado offensive line coach, and he told a room full of high school coaches that he had 3 guys on the roster that could bench over 300 pounds. And you could call the Pac-12 a little bit of a fairy league or a soft league, but I guarantee you at USC, Washington,
Utah,
Cal, well, not really Cal, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State, all those, they got linemen that can bench 300 pounds. There's some football dudes. And now Deion, it was the most watched game in college football. He outranked, which was an incredible game in Ohio State, Notre Dame. But the expectations are brought down finally, and calling it for what it is that this is at most a 7-win team. And if they can get to 7 wins, that's great success. But Deion has to find a way to improve his offensive and defensive lines, which I don't know if he can, because they brought in, and people talk about this Colorado team, how they won 1 game. This is not the team from Colorado team that was there last year. They have 69 new scholarship players. They are turned over an entire new team. Now we're really going to see how good of a coach Deion is, because the one-time transfer rule is done. All those guys he brought in, they're stuck at Colorado, or they're going to have to sit out a year. And how is he going to be able to handle that? And you go look at the recruiting rankings. Colorado is 75th nationally in the recruiting rankings at the moment. And now that obviously can change, but you aren't going to compete when you are towards the bottom half of the recruiting rankings.
Well, and then also, now we're going to find out what his strength and conditioning staff and what his offensive line coach and defensive line coach are in the coming years. Because like you said, Dylan, we all saw this coming. You can get all the skilled players you want this offseason with the one-time transfer rule. But can you get those big boys up front? And why, if I'm a big boy, would I want to go to Colorado? Yes, Deion, he's a huge personality. He
didn't even know his center's name.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. And he can be, the greatest corner of all time. But how is Coach Prime and his staff now going to get me into the NFL? Because guess what? If I go to Texas, if I go to Michigan, if I go to Notre Dame, if I go play defense for Oregon and Dan Lanning, guess what? There's a chance I can make it in the NFL. If I'm a front 7 player and offensive lineman, how is Deion's coaching staff going to do that for me?
And he's got all the fancy chains, the sunglasses, and all this. That doesn't excite an offensive lineman. That excites the skill players, all these rappers. All offensive linemen want to do is they want to go do their job. They want to go eat a bunch of food, go get in the weight room, get stronger, recover, and go home and do it all over again.
They're not driving $500,000 Rolls Royces through Boulder.
No,
they're driving a Chevy 1500 Silverado. So
I think my favorite thing was just how many people on Twitter saying, "Oh, this would have been a different game if Travis Hunter played." No. His kidney ain't worth 40 points. Sorry, it's just not going to happen.
Well, and like you said, Ethan, I didn't know Travis Hunter could block defensive linemen. I didn't know Travis Hunter could stop Oregon's running game.
Like, just shut up. Like, you got your ass kicked.
And even then, when he was in there against Colorado State, they struggled against them.
Well, and going back to that Colorado State game, yes, he took a vicious shot, but we've seen shots like that before. Like I think he had there were that though the it was a lacerated kidney. That was brewing long before. When you play 100 snaps back-to-back weeks and your body's taking those hits,
and the altitude,
the dam's going to break at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say what it is. Like, I'm not saying the guy deserved the hit, like getting hit like that late, but when you talk as much shit as you do, you're gonna get hit, whether you want to or not. People will headhunt you, and that happened.
And Travis Hunter he's probably been the most mature about that whole thing too. He's like,
oh yeah,
it's football. We get hit. That's it's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then also, Ethan, you're spot on, and I understand, putting the D on someone's chest and an L for leader and dog. Football people don't want that. Football people are old traditionalists. They want to stick to how the game should be played in that aspect. And when you're walking around talking the way you're talking, having a D on your chest saying that, oh yeah, hey, I'm a dog, I'm here doing this. And, you're slighting a team in Colorado State, and then, like you said, Dylan, you go in, you made it personal when Colorado stepped on your logo, but then you can go and you can step on Oregon's logo. The hypocrisy speaks for itself. And don't be surprised when you get your ass kicked. And, Dion, you shouldn't be surprised now that people are going to make this personal, and they're going to make it about whooping your ass. And that's what the rest of the Pac-12 is going to do to this team this year. It's going to get ugly.
Deep team too, because as the season wears on, they're really, if you go look at, there's not an easy win. I mean, you could argue maybe with Stanford, but Arizona's a good team.
I would say Stanford and Arizona State.
Yeah.
And probably Cal, but still at that point.
Cal can still put up points.
That they can.
But it's still like, when you're depleted, when your roster's depleted with injuries, it's hard to win games. You still need some talent.
And when you can't keep your quarterback upright, it's only a matter of time before his son gets hurt back there at quarterback, and it could be just an AC joint sprain. Still, that's 2 weeks. This Colorado team can't afford losing him for 2 weeks.
Yep.
I mean, Dylan, you talk about the Pac-12 and ferry this, ferry that. Well, they're the deepest conference in college football.
Mm-hmm.
They are. This year, they are the deepest conference in the.
You can't argue.
That West Coast, the West Coast, the reputation of kind of being some cream puffs, some softies. It's there, but we've talked enough about Colorado, and I'm interested to hear who your guys' Week 4 teams of the week are. So, Ethan, fire away.
Well, I'm going to go with one of my college football playoff teams. I'm going Florida State. Dylan, we talked about this on the preview of the whole year, but you picked Clemson, I picked Florida State. Tonight kind of dictated who's got the driver's seat, or this weekend did. Yeah. Florida State went on the road and beat them. Late touchdown to tie it, overtime win, incredible win for Norvell, what he's done so far this year. I mean, you beat LSU, you beat Clemson in your first 3 games, or 4 games, I guess. You're doing something right, and they absolutely deserve a top 4 ranking right now. And 2 weeks until the playoffs come? First rankings
already?
Come
wow.
Well, no, I think it's more November, guys. Is
it November? Okay.
I think we got about another month.
Yeah.
Even then, they absolutely are in the conversation for a 3 or 4 seed right now.
Oh, without question. Yeah, no, and Ethan, it's funny you mentioned that because that was my game of the week last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Dylan, I said, hey, you know what? Is this the same old Florida State team, or Clemson has this conference on lockdown, or can Florida State take it back and say this is ours to lose? And you know what?
Clemson, I was going to say, is after that loss to Duke, is they've kind of just quietly just dominated every team they played, and they absolute boneheaded play call by Garrett Riley on third and inches, where they have the first down if they just give it to Shipley, but they decide to throw the screen and they lose 2 yards, and then they try to throw the ball again and then it falls incomplete.
It's it's a new Florida State team, and for Clemson the year's over. I mean,
2 losses, you're done.
They're done. Yeah, they're
2
they're
conference
done.
losses
2 conference losses.
at that.
So I know we just spent some time talking about the Pac-12 conference. I'm going back.
He's going to Utah.
I'm not going to Utah. I'm going to Pullman, Washington. I'm going with the
Hey.
Cougs.
Ooh, that was one of my
Cougs,
teams I had written down as well. So,
And I say it because we're at the end of September, and I know Florida State, they got those 2 big wins. Washington State has 2 top 25, maybe top 20 wins this year, beating Wisconsin and Oregon State. And Washington State's kind of that forgotten team out there, and Cam Ward is an absolute stud. I mean, what the state of Washington has this year for college quarterbacks is almost not fair. But yeah, Washington State, they just look real good. They've pretty much dominated Oregon State the whole time, and they kind of told the rest of the world, hey, don't forget about us. We belong in the Power 5. With the shifting and the conference realignment and everything like that. But for the Cougs, they get a big win. They should be a top 15 team, if you ask me, in the AP poll. So shout out to the Cougs for a big win last Saturday.
yep. Yeah, that was an impressive win. And you kind of hear some media guys, Coach Jason Brown from Last Chance U, the former Independence Community College head coach, said that Washington State should be talked about as a playoff team. And that's mostly because of a guy like Cam Ward. And the Apple Cup, if it's setting up to be could be a play-in game for the Pac-12 championship. Now, it's a long season to go, and it would be a total Washington State thing to where they lay an egg here in the coming weeks, but definitely a team to keep an eye on.